Story 1. The Haunting Whispers of a Nephew's Last Words.
It has been 10 long years since my nephew left us, but the memory of his departure remains as fresh and haunting as ever. He was just over 3 years old, nearly 4, when he passed away. It seemed almost as if it was fated, a dark inevitability that none of us could foresee. As the years pass, I often find myself revisiting the eerie, seemingly insignificant details that now send chills down my spine. My nephew was raised by my mother from a very young age. He was a sweet and thoughtful child, but he often said things that unnerved us. Around 6 months before his passing, he began to mention death with alarming frequency. Children are supposed to be innocent, full of dreams and hopes for the future, yet he would often ask us, "If I die, will you miss me?" At first we laughed it off, scolding him lightly, "You're just a child, what do you know about death?" But he would just smile faintly, his eyes holding a strange, inexplicable wisdom, as if he knew more than any of us could comprehend. Once he even told my mother, "Grandma, I'm going to die." In that moment my mother's hands froze, her face losing color. Though she tried to remain calm, brushing off his words with a casual, "Don't say such things," I could sense the unease growing in her. That night, while she was preparing dinner, she accidentally cut her finger, the knife slipping in her grasp. Blood stained the cutting board, and as I rushed to bandage her hand, an unsettling chill crept into the room. That month, an inexplicable anxiety gripped my heart. I found myself missing him more than usual, visiting him at every opportunity. It was as if an invisible force was urging me to spend as much time with him as possible. I remember one visit vividly. He was sleeping, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. His face looked so peaceful, like he was kissed by an angel, but I felt a deep-seated fear gnawing at me. I stood there, watching the gentle rise and fall of his chest, unable to tear my eyes away. In that moment, I realized that time was slipping through my fingers, faster than I could hold on to it. During those last few days, he often played alone on the floor, quietly moving his toy cars back and forth. One day as he played, he suddenly looked up at me, his eyes shining with childlike innocence, and ran over to hug my leg. "Auntie, I love you," he said with a sweet smile. His voice was so pure, filled with the untainted love of a child. Yet I felt an ominous dread lurking beneath his words, as if something terrible was about to happen. The nightmare unfolded on a quiet evening. My parents had taken him back home, and that night the dog at my grandfather's house began to howl. It wasn't the usual barking of a dog, but a mournful, human-like cry, echoing through the night. The sound was so chilling, it felt like a foreboding omen, as if something sinister was drawing near. We all felt it, a creeping dread that made it impossible to sleep. It was as if that cry wasn't from a dog at all, but from a restless soul wandering in the darkness. The next morning, my parents were overwhelmed by a sense of impending doom. They decided to return to the city immediately, thinking that whatever was about to happen, they would be better off in a place where help was more accessible. As soon as they arrived home that afternoon, my nephew suddenly clutched his stomach and started crying in pain. It was a cry unlike any I had ever heard, desperate, filled with agony. There had been no warning signs, no indication that anything was wrong. We called for an ambulance and rushed him downstairs, my father carrying him as fast as he could. But as we reached the gate of the apartment complex, his small body grew heavy in my father's arms, and his breathing stopped abruptly. In that instant my world shattered. This tiny life, so full of potential, had been snatched away from us in the blink of an eye. The ambulance arrived with blaring sirens, but it was too late. The paramedics did all they could, but nothing could bring him back. The doctors could only offer us their condolences, their faces grim with the knowledge that they couldn't explain what had happened. We were left in a state of shock, unable to comprehend the cruel reality that had befallen us. My aunt called me, her voice trembling with urgency. "You need to come home now. Something terrible has happened." Tears blurred my vision as I listened to her words, feeling the weight of grief pressing down on my chest. Everything felt like a surreal nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. In the days that followed, we found ourselves revisiting every small, seemingly insignificant moment. It was as if fate had been giving us signs all along, but we had been too blind to see them. The more we thought about it, the more we realized how helpless we had been, watching as he unknowingly walked towards his tragic fate. Since then, I often dream of him. In my dreams, he stands at a distance, smiling at me as if to say that he's not alone. But every time I wake up, I am overwhelmed by a sense of emptiness, a grief that time has not healed. The pain of losing a loved one is something that never truly goes away. Each year around the same time, my dreams become more vivid. I see him as he was, innocent, full of life. He runs towards me, arms outstretched, asking for a hug. I reach out to him, but he always slips through my fingers, disappearing just before I can hold him. That smile, forever etched in my memory, haunts me, a constant reminder of the void he left behind. In the dead of night, I sometimes hear faint, almost imperceptible cries. The cries are not human, but they echo through the stillness of my room, sending chills down my spine. My room grows unbearably cold, the chill seeping into my bones, suffocating me. I know it's connected to the spirit that never truly left. Sometimes I feel a presence lingering near me, watching me. I know it's him, my nephew, who never truly departed. This world is full of mysteries we can't explain, and that memory has become a haunting shadow that follows me everywhere I go. Whenever I think of him, my heart aches. I wonder where he is now, if he's found peace. Perhaps he's still waiting for the day when we will meet again. When that day comes, I will hold him tight and tell him that we never stopped loving him.
Story 2. Cursed by Destiny. The Mysterious Wait for 19.
Some things are hard to explain, yet undeniably real. I have an old client who has a childhood friend, an ordinary girl who was anything but ordinary from a young age. Even as a child, her behavior was marked by an unusual calm, as if she knew things beyond her years. Her family found her odd, but they never imagined that this oddness would spiral into a nightmare. When she was about 5 years old, she suddenly told her family, "There's a man waiting for me down there. He's going to marry me when I turn 19. The calm and determined tone of her voice sent chills down their spines. How could a little girl say something like that? At first, her family thought she was just babbling, dismissing it as childish imagination. But as time went on, her words became increasingly unsettling. She often sat on the edge of her bed in the dead of night, staring off into space as if waiting for something. Her eyes would glaze over, and she would mumble to herself in a language no one could understand. Sometimes she would suddenly stop playing with her toys, look out the window and murmur, "He's waiting for me. He said he'll come and get me." Her family grew increasingly uneasy and sought the help of a well-known fortune teller. The fortune teller examined her birth chart, his brow furrowing deeply before he slowly said, "There is indeed a man waiting for her. He will come to take her away when she turns 19. This man and she are bound by an inescapable fate. They made a pact in a past life." The fortune teller's voice was laced with deep concern. "You must be vigilant. Keep her close. If she can survive past her 19th year, she'll be safe." Her family, alarmed by the fortune teller's words, became even more protective, watching over her closely. As she grew older, she became more beautiful but also more withdrawn. She didn't play with other children, as if she had more important matters to attend to. She stopped talking about the man, but the underlying fear never dissipated. The days passed, and soon her 19th birthday was approaching. Her family became increasingly anxious, never leaving her side, fearful of what might happen. On her birthday, the family organized a simple celebration for her, but she remained silent, staring at the flickering candle flames as if her soul was no longer in this world. A few days later, one morning, she suddenly told her mother, "He's here. Today he's going to take me away." Her mother felt as if she had plunged into an icy abyss upon hearing these words. Her fear reached its peak, and she quickly gathered all the family members. They decided to lock the girl in her room, never letting her out of their sight. Everyone stood guard outside the door, tense, fearing that something terrible would happen. But in the brief moment when one of the family members went to the restroom, it happened. It was as if she had been waiting for this moment. She got out of bed, retrieved a rope she had hidden, and hanged herself from the room's beam. Her actions were swift and decisive, as if this was her sole purpose. By the time her family found her, she had already stopped breathing. Her body hung in the air, and on her face was an eerie smile, as if she had finally fulfilled some long-awaited mission. The family was terrified by the scene before them. A strange atmosphere filled the air, as if some unseen force was watching them. The room's temperature suddenly dropped, and the darkness seemed to come alive, engulfing every corner. The family felt an indescribable fear and began to realize that the man might not be just a myth, but a force beyond their understanding, controlling everything. After that day, nothing in the house felt the same. Whether it was day or night, an uneasy aura lingered in every corner of the house. The family avoided the room where the tragedy happened, but the oppressive feeling never went away. The girl's death became a taboo topic within the family. No one wanted to bring it up, and no one dared to touch the mysterious story. This eerie event made everyone reconsider the details they had overlooked. The girl's strange behavior from childhood, the fortune teller's warning, and everything that eventually happened, it all seemed to suggest an unavoidable fate. Despite the family's best efforts to change things and protect her, they could not escape the curse of destiny. Who the man was, or whether he really existed, remained an unsolvable mystery. Perhaps he truly came from another world, carrying memories of a past life to find her and take her away. Or maybe it was just a story we misunderstood. But whatever the case, every detail of this story sends a chill down the spine, as if an unseen hand of fate is silently controlling everything in the shadows. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales. Thank you for watching.